Today on the show, we have Will Friedl. His company is called Prometheus Wind, and they help customers with contract support in three divisions: construction management, blade repair, and mechanical maintenance. Specifically with the mechanical maintenance, it's torque and tension. So, Will, thanks for being on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We were just talking before we started about your background in special operations and the stress that you had to go through in that and the mindset change you had to develop when you came out. Can you share that story?
My whole professional career got started within the Air Force. I was going into a special operations career field. It's a 2.5 year pipeline, and about only 10% of the people actually make it through the pipeline and do the job. And as I was going through that, before I went into the pipeline, I would consider myself really successful. I had a lot of friends that I had a good self-esteem, really confident in who I was, that kind of thing. I go into the pipeline, and it was an environment that I'd never been in before, and it's one that really makes me love the name of your podcast because in that environment, failure was seen as something to try to clean out of people. Essentially, in the military, you've got the juxtaposition between like having a no fail mission. You if you mess up something, then potentially somebody could die, and that's the environment that the military operates in. But also you got to face the fact that you're a human and inherently error prone. So how do you deal with those two things? And there's two general philosophies. One of them is we're just going to beat you down until you don't fail, which of course doesn't work because at the end of the day, you're always going to be dealing with humans. And regardless of how much you try to enforce not failing, mistakes happen. That's just the way of the game. The other way to approach it is, hey, failure is an opportunity to learn. We're going to help you get the most out of every single failure so that when you get through it, you've learned all these things and you can apply it not just to that specific environment, but to any environment. So going back a little bit, for the 2.5 years, unfortunately, the environment that I lived in was kind of a negative one. It was got a lot of negative feedback, not a lot of positive feedback, not a lot of mentorship. And 2.5 years later, I made it through the pipeline. It was supposed to be this big celebratory event in my life, and I developed a stutter like within a month. I'd go to work and the stutter would be present when I talked to people. I was spending a lot of my time just in analyzing who I was and whether I was good enough to be in this environment because I just saw myself as a failure. And then I'd go home and all that would go away. The stress would go away. And it was just like I was living two totally different lives. And it took me like a year and a half to get through that process. I was kind of constantly in that environment. And what happened was in the military, every 3 or 4 years, they move you to a different unit from one unit to the other. And I got to the second unit. The culture was totally different. I sat down with my commander, sat down with my director of operations. They both said the same thing. Hey, we're going to put you in this new role. We expect you to fail. It's not a big deal. We just want you to grow from it and all that stuff. And I was like, wait, what? What'd you say? That was just like a very strange concept to me at that time. And then they stuck to their words. Like I would screw stuff up, and they'd be like, "Hey, you screwed stuff up. Looks like you know that you screwed stuff up. Just do better next time. As long as this is the thing to learn from it." And within 3 months, literally 3 months, I'd had a stutter for a year and a half at that point. 3 months, it was gone. 6 months, I was like back to my original like state of confidence. And then like literally a year, almost on the dot from getting to that squadron, I was put in charge of like the preponderance of operational forces. Like I was running things pretty with ambiguous orders and kind of operating similar to a startup, just doing things that I thought was right in the way that I thought was right. And I never ever would have had the confidence to do that had I like right out of the gate, just because of the mentality, not because I didn't have the capability, but just because of the mentality I brought to that. So yeah, that was a big theme in my life. Fast forward a couple of years, I went to the Air Force Academy and I was setting up leadership training for cadets. And this was something like it was a visceral experience for me. So I wanted to pass that on. And so I basically started to research this, and I really recommend everybody to read Carol Dweck's Mindset. And that really reading that book and then speaking with a lot of professors who had been researching this specific topic and realizing, hey, this is a game changer as far as how you lead people and how you get people to perform at a higher level, whether it's yourself or other people.
How long after that experience did you then jump into entrepreneurship and starting this company, Prometheus Wind?
I was at the Air Force Academy for 3 years and then jumped out. So at that point, I'd been in the military for 9 years. That's the point at which I switched into the reserve. So I'm still a traditional reservist, which means every once in a while I'd still go work for the Air Force. Like when I did that transition and I started the company, that was the number one mindset shift. There's a reason that you named this podcast the way it is. Any company before they get to success is just going to have so many failures. And if you have the wrong mindset that you bring to what that failure means about you and your company, you'll never get past the emotional difficulty of overcoming that failure to get through all of the different failures you need to get to in order to have success. So yeah.
So you started this with your two brothers.
Yeah, I started with my two brothers. It was probably the best decision I've ever made. I before we started, there was a lot of people who said, "Don't ever start a business with partnership." My brothers have started businesses; they've had terrible experiences with partnerships, but I will never start a business again without a partner because just the sheer amount of decision making that you have to make, the ambiguity that you operating in that environment without having somebody to bounce ideas off of, very difficult situation, I think, for anybody. And so, yeah, if I have one recommendation, choose your have a partner, choose them wisely.
Has this brought you closer to your brothers?
Yeah, I would definitely say that we're the closest siblings in the family, just I mean, because we've been through the thick and thin. Like it hasn't always been pretty. It it's been a very long journey, and we're not through the journey yet. We're definitely still in the thick of it for sure. But we've all grown substantially. We've grown from each other. We've grown with each other, and because of that, we're extremely close.
Yeah, that's great. Why exactly did you choose wind turbines?
Good question. I think for me, work you have to be able to relate to your work, and it has to be an expression of what you believe in. My primary expression, just because of my experience, it is in how I relate to the employees, so or to the people in the business. Because my thing is, I've been in an environment that's toxic, and I've been in an environment that's very supportive, and I've seen the difference. And so I wanted to do that, and I wanted to do that kind of in an environment where people are really involved in their work.
Why exactly did you choose wind turbines?
In the military, you go on these deployments, you're all bonding together. Well, very similarly in the wind industry, people go to these construction sites or they'll go to these maintenance sites, and they'll be doing this a specific scope of work. They'll be spending 60 to 70 hours working on these sites. It's a very just involved process. And so if you can take something like that where somebody's really pouring themselves holistically into this job, and you can take that and turn it into like a developmental opportunity for them, one that's going to help them not only grow professionally but personally, then you can have a lot of impact on people. And so to me, that was the primary target for this. The other thing was opportunity. My brothers had a lot of experience in the technical background, so we knew that. And then the final piece is the mission. Like I can get behind trying to. I'm a huge outdoors person. I really enjoy just the ecology around me everywhere I go. Some people are like really big foodies. I'm a big ecology guy. Like I got try to go out and go on hikes, see the different things, see the different beauties that are out there in the different landscapes. And so for me, doing something that's going to help maintain that is important. So I'd say those three things.
Where do you see the wind industry going over the next few years?
The wind industry going. So lots. I don't know, man. I wish I were a guru. As a startup, you don't have access to I don't have like a research team or a lobbyist team. You know what I mean? So I'll tell you my piece, but I'll also caveat it saying I'm kind of in the dark on a lot of this stuff. I'm told there's a lot of money coming into it. I see a lot of these projects take 10 plus years to develop, especially the offshore stuff. And so there's a lot of momentum and in them. And so with the push, both politically and economically, I think that wind and all the renewable sectors are going to grow pretty substantially. So I think it's going to be a big business. I think it's also going to change too. From with the shift from onshore being the central, we've done that for years, to going offshore. I think just like looking at how those sites are constructed, how they're maintained, what the logistics footprint is for them, what the decision for spending money, like all of those things are going to change like I would say, pretty significantly. I don't know how, but I'm expecting that there'll be a good amount of shifting for that. So I think my projection is it's going to get bigger and it's going to get more dynamic. So
Yeah, I think you're right on that. I think you've chosen the right business to have a startup in and get that natural
yeah,
lift.
I hope so. I mean that that's the point. We did a lot of thinking before we started the business. So
So, well, if our listeners wanted to reach out to you or your company, how would they do so?
yeah, our a good place to start, our website, www.prometheuswind.com. It's kind of difficult to spell. Prometheus, wind.com. Also, you can look us up on LinkedIn. You can look me up on LinkedIn. Just PM me and I'll hit you up.
Well, thank you, Will, for being on the show, and thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Failing to Success. I'm your host, Chad Kalecki with Cosmic Design and Development. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.